Turkey has a very good potential in hydros, in wind, and in solar actually. Currently, roughly 30% of the total generation is coming from hydros, and 70 is coming from thermal power plants, and dominantly from gas-fired plants. And in Turkey we don't have natural gas resources, so most of that is imported through Russia, Iran, through Azerbaijan, etc. And we have a current account deficit problem. So the renewable energy is both sustainable in that sense, and it also provides a great value to the economy to decrease the current account deficit, because it's our own resources at the end of the day. We can say that at the moment in Turkey, most of the hydro reserves are already invested, they're already used, but we have a good wind potential. Almost 4 or 5 years ago, we had zero wind energy generation in Turkey. At the moment, we have only as Garanti Bank, we financed like 2 gigawatts of wind power projects, both through the CIF funds and through own funds, and some blended with ECA financing. And we have a 35% market share. So wind energy is there, but there's still a lot of place to go, because we have a lot on our pipeline. And I think what's the biggest deal is the solar, because we have at the moment almost 0 megawatts of solar installed capacity, but we have a high irradiation factor. It's the 5th highest in Turkey. It's about 1,700.
Why so little Turkey? Even the UK has got solar panels. Why has Turkey got nothing?
Yeah, exactly. It was because of the regulation. The regulation was not there, and the investors, I mean, there was no framework from a policy perspective. But now that we have it, I mean, comparatively, if you look at Germany, for example, I mean, they have very low irradiation, 1,100, and they have 35 gigawatts of panels. Yeah. And some days they only produce using the solar.
So is the regulation framework in Turkey, is it better now? I mean, is it an attractive place for companies, private investors to go into and invest?
There is a feed-in tariff. There is a feed-in tariff for all of the renewable energy types. For solar, it's the highest, but still this is very low compared to European countries. It's 13.3 cents per kilowatt hour. It is low, but with the solar panel prices coming down, now that it makes sense. You know, in like 10 years, 12 years, it pays itself. But of course, the cost of funding is another issue, and the tenure of the funding is an issue. Up to now, most of the private banks were kind of reluctant for solar energy financing, because most of these projects are rooftop projects, and they are very small scale, like below 1 megawatts, for example.
So it's easier to get funding if you've got a really big, if you've got a big sort of project. And are those available in Turkey? Do you have big sites which you think will be identified in the future, and you can have either huge PV plants or other forms of solar?
Yeah, there are big sites available, but then again, for the big sites, there's a lot of competition between the investors, and the government had to put out tenders, and now the investors are paying royalty fees, so it's like a negative feed-in tariff. So for the big sites, I mean, that's the problem. As Garanti, for example, what we aim to do is to finance the rooftop panels, because we think that there's a very good potential there, both on the SMEs or residential parts below 1 megawatt. Mm-hmm. And we launched very recently a specific product for this. It has a long tenure, like 10 years, 11 years, with a more competitive interest rate. But what's more important than the economics of this loan is we trained our branches, because none of the branch, I mean, it's a massive mass scale product. So you have to train the branches, the loan officers out there, because they will be evaluating the loans. And for example, for the investors, what we did to facilitate, because these are SMEs and they don't really know the energy sector, etc. So we produced handbooks, we produce checklists for the permits that they have to get and the regulation, etc., to facilitate these processes.